So Jesus, slaughtered by the devil, overcomes him in that way. And he reestablishes the worthiness of the one sitting on the throne to rule. This same story is taken up in chapter 12. In chapter 12, we have Jesus entering the throne room again, soon after being slaughtered by the devil. But now, chapter 12, which is parallel to chapter 5, is going to give us the backstory of the devil's role. In chapter 5, the devil is only mentioned by he's overcome someone, by being slaughtered by that someone. That someone now that slaughtered him and led to his own demise is identified and explained in detail in chapter 12. Have a look first at chapter 5 and verse 6. So we know a chronological pillar. What time in history, what event in history are we looking at? 5:6, New American Standard Bible. And I saw between the throne with the 4 living creatures and the elders a lamb standing as if slaughtered. Chapter 5 describes Jesus appearing in the throne room just slaughtered. This same event is described in chapter 12. And so they're parallel passages. But now the emphasis will be on the devil and what he did leading up to the slaughter and what he was up to. Chapter 12, verses 4 and 5. Remember, chapter 4 and 5 was about God's worthiness to rule, and it was connected with the scroll. Yeah. So Satan had raised question on the character of God and his right and worthiness to rule. That backstory now, Satan's charges against God, are taken up in detail in chapter 12. So Jesus in chapter 5 verse 6 is the lamb just slain enters the throne room. Same event in chapter 12, 4 and 5. Chronological markers, same event. 4 and 5 New American Standard Bible. And the dragon's tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven and hurled them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. And she gave birth to a son, a male, who is going to rule. Remember, chapter 5 is about the rulership of God? You look. Who was going to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Chapter 5 verse 6, Jesus enters the throne room. Chapter 12 verse 5, Jesus enters the throne room. But now we've got the backstory about the enemy who slaughtered him and defeated himself in the process. Before Jesus is born on planet Earth, it says that the dragon, who we know is the devil, and I'll show you that in a minute, he swept with his tail a third of the stars of heaven. Who is the dragon? 12:9, ESV. And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver. Boom, we know who the dragon is. It's the devil. And he's called the ancient serpent deceiver. That's important. Okay, so we've got the dragon, who is the devil and Satan, and he's called the ancient serpent, the deceiver. You know what story that's recalling. We're going to bring it in. And he's up in heaven, and he hears that Jesus is going to come to earth and be born, and he's born to rule. What was the issue in chapter 5? God's right to rule. Was he worthy to rule? Jesus established that worthiness to rule by being slaughtered by the enemy. So the devil knows the dragon, and he uses his tail to get a third of the stars of heaven, and he sweeps them down to earth. What's tail about? What's stars about? The stars in chapter 1 verse 20, ESV. The 7 stars are the angels. Huh. So the devil sees that Jesus is going to come to earth to rule. That's the issue in chapter 5, the right to rule. And he said, we're going to kill him. So he gets his tail and he throws down a third of the angels of heaven, the stars of heaven. He sweeps it down to earth to what? To devour him, to kill him. Stop him ruling on the earth. And at the end of verse 5 said, but the child was caught up to God and to his throne. Not just to heaven, not just to God, but to his throne. Rule, throne. Chapter 5, rule, throne. Chapter 12, rule, throne. The devil wants to stop Jesus coming and establishing God's rule on earth and the rule in heaven, throne in heaven. This is the repeat of chapter 5. They synchronize, same story, but just more background information. As we go through chapter 12, we're going to get lenses to really what's going on in this book. So Satan uses his tail to sweep down a third of the angels of heaven, kill Jesus, stop him from ruling the earth, and then going back not just to God, but to the throne. Because when he goes back to the throne, he's done, he's exposed. Wow, what a story, eh? But he swept a third of the angels of heaven at Jesus' birth with his tail. What's a tail represent in prophecy? Isaiah 9:15, English Standard Version. Listen to this. The elder and honored man is the head, and the prophet who teaches lies is the tail. He's telling tales, folks. Oh, he swept a third. He's a liar. That's what it means. And the tail is the prophet who teaches lies is the tail. He taught a third of the angels of heaven lies about God. And then the scroll is out of his hand. God said, okay, let it play out. Yeah? You see what's going on here? So the devil tells lies about God and Jesus to a third of the angels of heaven. Kill Jesus, the one who was to rule all nations. Stop him from ruling the nations and from returning to God and his throne. But Jesus was caught up to God and his throne. And as soon as he enters the throne room, stop crying, John. So he put the two passages together. The Lamb, he conquered the enemy. He's ruled on earth. And now he's come back to the throne. This is what the throne's about. The self-sacrifice of God. He rules under a rainbow. He shares his throne. He endures being slaughtered. And when the beings in heaven saw this, he got chucked out of heaven. You liar. The devil told lies to a third of the angels of heaven to stop Jesus coming to earth to rule all nations and then go back to the throne. Because he knew that if Jesus died and rose again, Satan would be exposed as the serpent, the deceiver, who with his tail told lies about God. And God said, okay, let this play out. And so now the scroll, his right to rule, is not in his right hand. It's in his right, it's at his right hand side. And then Jesus comes and he picks it up by being slaughtered. Man, what a story, folks. What a story. We're going to pick this up next time. I'm giving you lenses here and I understand what's going on here in this book. God is humble. He shares his rule. He's peaceful. He will abdicate. He said, okay, we'll put the book. It's out of my right hand. Now it's at my right hand side. Let the story begin. Next time.